Okay, thank you. Hello from Massachusetts, where the fall is already in the air, so it's a bit cool and it's a bit too early to my taste. But usually I like it to wait until after Labor Day. But came early this year, and it's cool nights and feels like fall. And the colors, not the color of the trees, but the color of the air becomes like fall.
Oh, that's the
Anyway,
coolness down to us.
anyway, by all means. As Barry said, I'll go over some of the things I covered last meeting. And one of the things I did is I created a couple of PowerPoint slides to show the rulers on the top, because it's very difficult, I understand, to watch it when I move the mouse around. And Barry and I exercised, or we practiced a bit, and we could not make it bigger. There's no way we can make it bigger so you can see it. So I just cut and pasted to PowerPoint, and I'll go through the rulers for a couple of minutes. Some of the things will refer to things I talked about last meeting rather, and some that I'm going to talk about today. So so everybody sees the screen?
Yes, you've got the whole PowerPoint up with the slide
Right.
number 3.
Right. So what, I don't have to show that, so 1 minute. It's summary of the very basic one. And before I forget, I'm running Excel 16. So when I talk about the rulers, and if you have a newer, older or newer one, it will be slightly different. And there's no way we can go over all the versions that are running, but basically are the same structure and the same tabs. So summarize, basically we have cells in Excel. Those are those are each one of the squares here, and they are labeled by a column number and a column letter and a row number. So A1 will be the one in the very top, and A10 will be the one here, if you can see my point. And that's something I want to take out of this slide. And the structure is a cell. The cell is part of a worksheet, and a bunch of worksheets are part of the workbook, which means the file is a workbook, and you can divide it into different tabs on the bottom, which we saw, and I'll show it again, that are the separate worksheets. Second thing is the tabs. In Excel, when you bring it up, you have the tabs on the top in the green. You see in the green here? The first one is file. We won't talk about it today. The second one, which is really home, and that's where you're going to spend most of your time, like in those days, you spend most of the time at home, because most of the more regular functions are there. There is format painter that we'll talk about later. It's the same as in PowerPoint and Word. And most of those functions, not most, many of them are the same across the Microsoft suite in PowerPoint and Word. So format painter, if you know it from PowerPoint or for Word, it's exactly the same here. Then you have the font, see Arial here, and the font as the numbers, the size. Now he's here formatting. And I think I show some of it, and I'll show some today. The first one is left justified, center justified, and right justified. It's the text, and that's on a horizontal level. The one on top, it is vertically in the cell, up, middle, or down. You see, up, middle, or down. Okay. I didn't cover those, but those are the paragraph. Shifted to the right. You see the arrow go to the right. to the left, or shift to the left, shift to the right. The arrow tells you what direction to shift it. Other one is merge centers. I think I showed it last time, that you want to take few cells and group them to merge them. For you, it's very useful for titles. So it's across multiple columns. And wrap text means if you have no room, it goes to the next, just below that, as long as the cell is wide, the row is wide enough to accommodate. Next one is the format of the numbers. $, percent, comma means just a number with a percent separator and a decimal point. And here, the last two is how many decimal points do you want to show? Can you see that slide?
Yes.
Because I'm sure it's much bigger than on Excel itself. Now, the continuation of that, and it's narrower because the top one, the tabs, is over, so I didn't copy it, is really formatting, and don't spend much time on that. For habit, I don't use formatting from here. They call it styles, really how it looks. And the end, which you use quite a bit, auto sum, I think I showed, and I'll repeat it today, to sum a column or row of numbers. And the next one is filter and sort. I'll spend quite a bit of time on that today. And the last one is find. Again, it's the same as in Word and PowerPoint. If you want to find a specific number or word on a document. In Excel, is not as heavily used as in Word because the documents are usually not that long. Word, when you have 20 pages and you want basically to create an index for yourself, you use it more often. At least that's my experience. The next step I'm going to talk, and that's the last one I'm going to talk about, is the insert, which is the next one here, you see? The insert is shapes, and I talk about it, I'll show it today, if not next time, but it's how to really paint. You create arrows and circles and squares around. Again, the same as in Word and PowerPoint, if you're familiar with that. The next one, which I'm going to cover today, are how to create charts. Okay. Now, the last one, I'm not sure is very important to most of us, at least not anymore. If you do heavy math, you have the equation and the symbols. You have the pi sign here and the omega sign here. And that if you want to do some mathematics, to put those signs that are not on your keyboard. Okay? I'm moving now, I'll go now to Excel and go, any questions? Either one of the last three slides. Okay? I'll stop sharing that and move to Excel. So we worked on that last week, or last meeting. It looks like somebody's simplified budget and has columns and formulas. For example, the difference is, as you can see here on the top, C4 minus D4. And one way that you can see what the formula includes, if you double click on the number, you see the formula in the cell. Can you see it here?
Yes. Yes.
It's very
And
small, by the way, Shlomo.
It highlights the elements of the formula. So it highlights C4 and D4. In this case, C4 minus D4, that's budget minus actual, equals the difference. Okay? So that's a simple formula. Here, I put in the sum of all those things, but it's really the sum of, or before that, you see here the retirement, there are three components to that, source A, source B, source C, you see here? So the 6,300 is the sum of those three numbers. Can you see that? Okay, So if I do a sum, I cannot count the 6,300 and the 1,700 because then you count the 1,700 twice because it's already included in the 6,300, right?
Okay.
So if you see the sum, it ends up on the 6,300. Okay. Now, an easier way to do, especially if you have a long number, is the sum function, which I showed you earlier on the PowerPoint. So if we take the 2,800, or 2,800, and you go to the formula here, you see here the sum, the letters, the Greek letter sigma.
Mhm.
It's called autosum.
No, we don't see it.
It's on the top right. You see my mouse moving?
Mhm.
You see it ending, stopping now?
Oh, I can't see it because I have the pictures of all of us here. Mhm.
That's right. Mine
So
is
you
out.
can move the pictures out of the way, or you can minimize the pictures altogether.
How do I do it?
Nellie, if you put your cursor at the top, just a little bit above all the pictures on the left side of that corner of edge, you'll see that there'll be 1 brick, 2 bricks, and 3 bricks. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Click on the 1 brick, and now you get rid of all the pictures.
All right.
And now you could take that bar and move the bar down to the right, out of the way.
No, I actually have to also close out format shape that I see here. No, not letting me.
Okay.
So is a sum, it's
I
the
see.
Greek
I
numbers.
just saw it. I know how to do it, but I wanted to be able to see everything. But I see what you mean about the sum. I see.
Not a problem now. Go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead, Shlomo.
so I highlight where I want the sum right here on E12 right here. You see?
Mhm.
And I'm going to replace it with sigma because now I push the sigma sign. The problem is that it highlights everything. That's exactly what I said before we should not do, but you can easily overcome it. You left click on Windows and you drag it only to where you want the sum to end. You see that?
Yes.
And you let go and push enter and you have the same 28,000 back.
Wow.
Now, this is extremely useful. Usually those, I created the subtool to make a point last meeting, but usually you don't have summaries in the middle, so it's easier. But you have a column of 100 numbers. It makes the summation of that trivial, as opposed to say A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus A4, which you will forget one and all that stuff. This one, you should see exactly what's going to add. And in my mind, that's one of the most useful ways function in Excel, the auto sum.
Shlomo, if under dividends, you wanted to break that down into 3 categories, sub A, sub B, sub C, how do you skip around to get your number correctly? Do you just click on each item that you want it to sum?
No, I say, let me do it again. You see that, Peggy? I'm highlighting where I want the sum to be. You see that?
Correct.
Now I go to the sigma, this auto sum, click on that. Now you change and you say, I'm going to add all the numbers above. You see that? It's kind of light blue here. So if I do that, it will double count 6,300. So I push on the top and push the left button and drag it all the way to 6,300. Say, no, I just want to do it.
No, that's not her question. Her
I'm
question
sorry.
is if the number of lines, Shlomo, are not collective. In other words, let's say that dividends and realized capital gain is in one section of that column, and interest and other is lower than that, and so you cannot use the word box to cover a certain number. It's broken up in that column. Am I right, Peggy? That's what you're asking?
Sort of. What I'm saying is, Shlomo, if you look at, I'm just going to use dividends as my thing and say dividends, you have a source A, a source B, and a source C for dividends.
Okay.
And so now dividends is at the very top. And then you have realized capital gains, interest, and other coming through. And then you go to retirement, again, source A, B, and C. Can you just click on the items that you want it to sum? Because obviously, if you add it all up, you're going to end up again with a double amount under dividends.
Okay, let me show you. No, you cannot do that. No, I cannot do that. In this case, the trick I'm using often, another way to do it is to do the following. I do that, sum, say, okay, and now it comes with that. Now I go to this cell, you see the sum here on the top?
Yep.
And I say minus this one, the 6,300, because I double counted and I get the right number.
Right.
Okay.
You have to change the formula, right, Shlomo?
No, I say the sum, but I take away the one that I know I double counted.
Eliminate it.
That makes it right.
Shlomo,
Yeah.
I understand you're showing this to us in order for us to understand the concept of those two things about how to add something and not include something else in it. However, if I was to create this particular worksheet, I will probably have another column. Sorry about that. I will add another column and I will have the source A, B, and C in the other column, and then just add up that column into the difference. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
Now, let's say that we want the difference to calculate the difference. I'm moving on now. In percentages as well, not just in dollars. Okay? So I'm going to calculate here the percent. So I'll change the title here and call it difference $. Okay? And I'll add another title here, call it difference %. Okay? Now, how to calculate the percent? I say equal, right? And it will be the difference. It will be the difference divided by the actual, right? We talked about it. Divide is a slash. So 0.5. So, well, 1,000 is 50% of 200, right? 2,000. So let's do it again. Let's see it again. I'm saying it's E4, this number here, divided by D4, right? Now, since I call it percent, I want it to look like a percent. And you remember we saw that ruler before. On the top here, on the numbers, there's a percent sign. You see that here?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You just push it and you now become 50%. Now you want to show some decimal points. You see here, I showed you how many decimal points. One decimal, 2 decimal points, 3 decimal points. Probably I don't need that. Let's say 1 decimal point. That's what I want. Okay. Now, I want it obviously to the rest. Now, there are multiple ways to do it. One of them is to do it again. Say equal that divided by that.
You got to format.
Okay, that's 300%. Okay, so and push in percent.
And that's going to be a lot of time.
Right. So that's one way to do it, but that's really not a good way to do it. The other way to do it is to take this percent and copy and paste it. You know, you can copy and paste here on the left. I hope you all know the shortcut or Microsoft shortcut for copy and paste is Control C is copy, Control V is paste. So I highlight the 50, Control C, you see it have those
Ants.
the
Marching ants.
marching ants, and you paste it on the next one. Okay, that's easier. Yet there is another easier way to do it. You highlight that. You see the corner here. There is a kind of a dot here. It's very difficult to see, but in the corner of this box on the bottom right, there's a kind of a dot. When you put your mouse on top of it, it becomes like a plus. You see that? It changes to plus. You see?
Yep.
Now you push it and you push the left button and you just drag it down and it's done.
How would you do that in a Macintosh?
Same thing.
You have only one button that's enough, but it's
Right.
not control, it's option, right?
I just hit the corner and drag it down.
Without pushing any, all right. So here are the percentages, all calculated. And that's a very important function because, especially if the spreadsheet becomes larger, you really don't want to do it every cell at a time. You can keep on dragging it all the way down. It shows the division. Division in you are trying to divide by 0, and that's not something that I know how to do. So that's, but 0 because I did it through the blank lines. You can just delete it. Clean it up because it's a meaningful number here, and the same here. Now, we want to make it, now we go to formatting, all right? So we want to make those borders nice and neat. So what we can do is go,
Shlomo?
Yeah?
Shlomo, on surplus shortfall, the last column, why would that come up as 0?
There's no answer. There's no
Because I don't
difference.
have difference. I didn't calculate the difference.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
But if I do,
275.
okay?
Got it. Thank you.
To format it. So one way to do it, you go here, you highlight it, and you go to here under the font. You see this B for bold, I for italic, U for underline, and then next to it is the boxes. And it shows how to do the borders. So let's say I want to do just lines between that. See how the line showed up? Okay, you see here? Now let's say I want to continue and make those bold to separate the headings from the rest of the numbers. I go to the same box, drop down menu, and you see thick outline border. Click on that. Now it's nice and neat. Now let's say I want to do all that and make it thick as well. Click it again, and the thing looks a bit better.
And do it.
You can, the other thing, and you keep on doing that. The other thing that you have to remember, I encourage you to try because you cannot break it. You can always push Control Z or go to edit and go undo. to go back to where you were before. Nothing breaks. Okay.
Shlomo,
Yeah.
Shlomo, on that last line that you created with adding in the difference, that it shows up as a shortfall, but it isn't.
You're right. I calculate in reverse. I think I calculated.
It should be C44 minus D44, but I thought that's what you did.
You know why? Because it's a minus.
Uh-huh, yeah.
What do you mean it's a minus?
You see, it's red. It's a minus. It's a deficit.
50.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. So it's showing up as all. I get it. Thank
And
you.
since you ask, Irene, let me show you how do you do that.
Yeah.
Why is it red? If you want to format this number, you right-click on the cell and go to Format Cell. You see here?
Yes.
Now you get all kind of option to format it. Currency, for example, what it's like you cannot see it well because I've highlighted. You see, you have a minus,
I see. Get it.
or red, or in parentheses, red.
Right.
Choose how to show it. Doesn't change the value of the numbers. Just
Right.
as a display of that. On the left side, you have general, usually use it for alphabetic, number, currency, accounting. Accounting shows it a bit differently. You have the currency here, you see, dollar sign. You can go down and have the Armenian and the Uzbekistan's and whatever other currency you want to call it. Okay. Wait a minute, sorry, I didn't mean to leave it. Other things here are alignment. You want it left justified, right justified, on horizontally and vertically up and down. You want to have, you can have font, which we know otherwise how to do it on the top. Border, you can really do fancy borders here, where you can see all kind of dotted line, thick line, double lines. So you can really be creative and make it as pretty as you want it to be. That's what I'll talk about right now. So it's right click on the cell and you forward the number, or you can take a bunch of cells, highlight them, and then click and say format cell, and now you format all of them. Again, you take cells, you cover multiple cells, right click, format cells, and you can go on the number and all that stuff. Yeah. Another thing that you can format, and sometimes it's useful, is if you have some cells and you do not want to show it because it takes too much space, you don't, it's confidential or whatever. You highlight a column, see that? Column B is highlighted. Right click again, say hide. See hide here on the drop down menu? Gone.
Yep.
I mean, it's not gone, it's there. And you can see now it's a column A and column C. So there's obviously a gap here. But you hide this column. So if you have some column you develop for work to just recalculate some stuff for yourself, but at the end it's not important to show it, you just hide them. You don't have to delete them. To undo it, you highlight the two adjacent cells, A and C, around B, right click again and say unhide. The same goes for column.
Perfect.
You can do the same for columns. For example, Nili's point on those three, if I highlight those three columns, 8, 9, a row, 9, 10, and 11, right click, hide, gone. Now, this number, the 6,300, is still, this number is still the sum of those numbers that are below that were source A, source B, source C. So it's a reference to them, it just doesn't show. Let's take it out. The back. So that's now let's go to sort and filtering, which I found two very important messages. Moving back and moving forward. Where is it? Now this is I don't know if any of you participated. I used to do the tennis scheduling, the men tennis scheduling, and that's how you did it. So I'm trying to show it because A, I had it, I don't have to dream up the data, and B, it's relevant to see how you do it in practical application. So basically people, I send in the 10th of the month, and the people say, guys, what days do you want to play next month? This is for January 2020. Those are, we played Wednesday, Friday, and Monday. So those is it played, and they gave me the answers, the different formats. Some were more disciplined than others. But anyway, I could figure out what days you want to play. And I put a capital Y in the days you want to play. Okay? See that? So Wednesday happened to be January 1st. And so on until the 31st. Now, two things I want to show. One of them is a sort and the other one is a filter. This is sort by last name. And we really, for some reason, historical reason, it's sorted by first name. So what you have to do, I want to sort it by first name. Okay? Sorting by last name is more difficult because sort starts from the left to the right. So in order to sort, you do the following. You want to sort the entire data. So you highlight, and I don't want to sort the heading because they should stay in the beginning. You highlight from the beginning, you drag it to the end, and down to cover all the data. That's the last line is the tolls. I don't have to sort it either. So now the area that I want to sort is highlighted. I go now, and you see on the top here, one of the tabs is called data. See that?
Yep.
Data. And in the middle, there is box say sort. Click on that. Now, if the headings it will incorporate the headings, and you can call the columns based on the heading. I didn't highlight the heading, so I cannot do that. So I have to say what columns you want to sort it by. You see here, sort by. Column B. First column 1 is a sequence number. The name is column B. See here?
Okay.
I cannot highlight because that's column B. And I want to say sort on cell value, and I can sort it A to Z or Z to A, ascending or descending sequence. Usually you sort an ascending sequence, right? And you push OK. Voila. That's it.
And I noticed, Shlomo, that the numbering is still the same. So to the left of Alan is a 1, Arnie is a 3. So it it kept the numbers in the same.
Well, I'll show you why, because that's to demonstrate something I did before. You see, I put here, the number is a formula. You see on the top?
Uh-huh.
It's A4, which is blank, plus 1.
Ah,
is
thank you.
A5 plus 1. So since a sequence number is a relative to where you are, it will recalculate correctly.
So that's the only reason that didn't go
Correct.
into a, okay.
If it was if it was not a formula, the number will stick with you.
Shlomo, if you're sorting then by last name versus first name, I don't understand how that would work, because if you go back to sort and you now say Z to A, it'll take the first names and sort them.
Irene, it's a good question. I'll tell you what's the story.
Okay.
That's not an easy question. I
You
know
see,
it.
I broke it down. That's how I sorted by last name.
He
You
had
see
some hidden fields.
A hidden field, you see?
Video. I can't talk right now. Everything all right? Okay. All right, I'm looking at an Excel video. Should be over in a half hour.
You see that, Irene?
Yes, I
That's how I
do.
sorted. On this column D.
Okay.
Barry, you knocked me out of Zoom. I can't get back into the meeting.
Who's talking?
Ronnie
Gerstein.
She's
Ronnie?
in.
Ronnie, you're in. So,
I'm not, I don't have anything on my screen.
okay, Ronnie, my recommendation is that you exit Zoom and come back into Zoom, and I'll
I did
allow you
that.
to come back. You pressed a button. I don't know which one you pressed, Ronnie.
Okay. So, but that's a good question. It's another function. Maybe we'll do it next section. How to take the name Alan Albert and divide Excel as a function to two different fields.
Okay,
So we
thank
create
you.
two columns from that. I didn't type it again.
Yeah.
But
Shlomo,
it's a good question.
Shlomo,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have a question. Can you show me again? You see, when you do the formula that will be, let's say, 4A.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do 4A, and how did you do the last formula? Let's go
This
back
one?
there. You just did the formula where no, I don't remember. What formula did you just show us? Basically, my question is, I'm trying to ask you, and I did send in the question, I don't know if you got it or not, how to anchor a particular cell when we copy the formula. Did you get my example of my question?
I cannot follow the chat when I'm talking. So I do not. I did not see that.
But can you show us how to anchor a cell?
A formula?
In the formula, how to anchor a cell in a formula. Do you know what I mean by anchoring? No, okay.
No.
Let's say I'm copying
What is this in regards to?
I'm creating a formula. And the formula is going to be A1 plus C1. Now, if I'm going to copy it down to the next, to do the same formula on the next line, it will be B1 plus D1.
Right.
Okay.
However, if I want the A1 to stay, so it will be A1
okay, I got it. I got it.
Okay.
So let's say that here it says A1 plus A4 plus A1. If I copy it down, it will say A5 plus A1.
Correct.
But if I wanted, for some reason, always to add it to A4, right? Which is meaningless in this case. But what you do, I want it always to be on A4, right?
Either
so what
one.
I do,
yeah.
What I do in front of the 4, I put a $sign.
It doesn't work. I tried it.
It does work.
Okay, I'll have to try it again. Okay.
So if you do it this way, these are all ones because all add 1 to the same number.
Okay. Thanks.
It's a $sign, either the column or the row or both.
Okay. And
So
in
that
which,
is a sort. Any question about the sort? It's really very simple. I'll do it again, even though I won't change anything because it's already sorted. You highlight the area. Let's say I'm doing now, I highlight including the titles. Okay. I highlight the entire area and you make sure you highlight everything, because if this way I would highlight only part of it, only part of the spreadsheet will be sorted and it will be out of sync, the rows.
That's right. Name's going to be in the wrong spot.
So you have to do it, the entire worksheet, even the area I'm not particularly interested right now, because the rest of the row will relate now to something else. So I do that, go to sort. Now I can put, I have a heading. Now you can tell me you want to sort by name, or you want to sort by first, last, email address, phone. Those are the headings that are hidden now. Or you want to do by one, which happened to be a January 1st, January 3rd, on the rest. Okay? And then A to Z, and you say, okay, and it's done. Okay? That's the sort. Another thing that I find very useful here, and I use it quite a bit here, is I want to, in the end, I'm not interested in the people that do not want to play in a given day when I do the schedule, right? They're not interesting. I want to see all the Ys for the first. They're scattered. And it's not by alphabetic, not schedule alphabetic. There is a function called filter. And I highlighted it before on this. You take in the headings, you highlight the headings, you want to filter the columns well. You see here, I did name to the end of the month.
Mhm.
Go on the right here, you see sort and filter. You see that? The one before last. Click on that, and if you go down the drop-down menu, there is a filter field. Click filter. You see all those arrows that showed up here?
Mhm.
Now I can use it in multiple ways. Let's say I am interested in only 5 people. You see all the names are here because those are the values in this column under the name. So I can go and say, I want to clear them all. You have select all and clear all. And I want to see just the first, the third, just 4 people. Randomly clicked on them. You say, okay, now I have only those 4 people. The rest are there. We didn't delete anything. You
And
want now.
And to the left, it says 1368.
Right. Right here. Those are 4 people. Now, if you want to get rid, you see the arrow is on the, there is here a filter sign. I don't know if you can see it, and a dot next to it in the corner of the name cell. If you click on that and you say select all, everybody will show up. Now, more useful than that for me was, let's say I want on the 6th of the month, right here, I want to see who wants to play. I click on that, and I say I want only, you see it say Y and blank. Those are the 2 values there, because it can be only Y and blank, right? The Y, I put a Y for the people that want to play, and the other one, I didn't do anything, it stayed blank. So I uncheck the blanks, and now it's for the 6th of the month, and let me highlight, make it clearer. Okay, is only the Ys. Now, to schedule it, since there are 4 people playing in a game, what I would do, now it's easy, it's a bit more complex than that, but what I would go and say, the first 4, it will be the first foursome, 1, 1, 1, 1. Next one, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, and so on. I have 6 foursome, took me about 15 seconds.
Except Shlomo, in this case, you have people of different levels playing.
I know. I
Can
oversimplify.
you sort it so that you can then see who is level 1, who's level 2?
Now, by the way, the levels here are random, so I wouldn't dare showing the levels here. So as you see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a very good question, Peggy. So let me show you in reality what I do. Never mind, I won't change the colors. You go to the sort again, right? Because you sort it the following level, this following way. You go to sort, data, sort. The first thing you sort it is by level. See here? By level. The second thing, since you asked the question, I'll give you, I will sort it at the level, if I want to sort it within, on 2 levels, one by level, but within level, I want to sort it by something else. Like I want to say male and female, and then the male alphabetically and female alphabetically inside that. So I go and sort by column U. I'll explain it in a second. Column U, I don't give it a heading. We're not going to get into that. It's a random number that I generate. So every time I sort, not everybody will place the same people all the time because alphabetically they are next to each other. So it's a random number, but I sorted by those 2. And now you see that all the 1s, 2s, and 3s, and every time I sort, and I sort every time I go to another day, they are not going to be next to each other. So you see here, it's certainly not alphabetic within level 1. It's at R, K, S, B, J, S. And I don't want it to be alphabetic. I want to be random within the group. Does that answer your question, Peggy?
Yes, thank you.
How do you determine which sort queue you use first?
Well, it's really, you think about the way you think about things. If you want to have members of NCGW, and you want to sort alphabetically, but members first and associated second. You don't want to intermix them, right?
Right.
So you'll first, let's say you have a code on the list, it's a member or an associate. Okay?
So you would sort by member and then by name?
No, I will sort first by level of membership.
Right.
Let's say it's a code 1 to 2.
Member and then by name.
Then by name.
Got it.
So it's really not, it's not that we think about it, it's not different than the way we think about things. You know, you want to, I sort my books. I sort it by subject within language, right? Physically, no different than that, right?
Yes.
Any question about either the sort or the filters? Now the filters, I'll show you one more thing about the filters. This is the schedule itself. It's in midway, so you see some of the days as filter as scheduled, the numbers, and some have not still the Y's.
Shlomo, I had thought of another question. Let's say you've sorted on your last screen, you sorted by level and then by name. My question is, can you then click on that column and generate a new form with just those names on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So let's do it. I'm not sure I understand, but let's do it for a minute. By level and name, right?
Yes.
Hide the columns.
Level, and here, change it to name. Click on the wrong thing. Okay. Sorted by level. You see here, ones, twos, threes, and by name inside
But you
the thing.
can't generate a separate list of those people on level 1.
Well, the way you do it is either you to go to level 2, drag it all the way to the bottom, and hide them. One way to do it.
All right. So, but you can't. But you still have all the other data showing.
Yeah, yeah. Or
Okay.
you can take that and cut and paste it to another sheet.
Okay.
What are we doing time? We are running out of time. Let's go to charts because we didn't get to formulas. So I downloaded the stock prices and the volumes and open and close of AT&T for a bunch of days. You see? Date,
Yep.
close, volume, open, high, and low. Okay? And let's say you want to chart it. And I want to chart it on by day, by close, what the close and the volume, to see how it looks. You go and highlight, including the heading, all the way down. So far, so clear?
Yes.
You go to insert, when I showed you before on a PowerPoint, and here is all the charts you want to do. I don't know if you can see it. Bar, you can see it now. Bar chart, you can see it bigger now. I just moved my mouth on top of it. There is now a waterfall. That's a regular line chart, another type of bar chart, and so on. Let's say we want a line chart, the regular chart. I just click on that, and it tells you what exactly you want, all kind of simple one. The 3-dimension, 2-dimension. Let's say I want that. Okay, here's the chart. I can click and move it. Now, this chart is kind of meaningless because obviously the volumes are in millions and the prices are between around $30. So the $30 becomes a line, a blip on the bottom, the blue line. You see that? You see the blue line on the top bottom here? It says here, you see, I hope it's easier to see it now.
Yeah.
So you see in the bottom, it says close is blue and volumes is red. You see that? Now, the close is kind of useless here to see how it react because it's too small. So you want to add now, I'm sure you saw, 2 y-axes, one for one value and one for the other, and each one of them will be meaningful to the numbers, the absolute numbers that it represent. You do it very simply. Right-click, format. You see in the bottom, format plot area. Click on that. Wait a minute. What did I get here? I'm sorry. Select data. No. Wait a minute. Where is it?
You're on the Click on the screen, the chart. Click on the chart again. Okay. You're,
Wait a minute, something is wrong here. I didn't mean to do that. Whoa. The wrong side, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm doing something wrong because I did it earlier. And here we go. No. Sorry about that.
You're learning with us.
Well, I did it this morning, the last time.
Go out and do it all over again.
Maybe I'll do just that.
It's good to see it anyway, doing it twice.
There you go. And now you see on the right here, unless your picture covers that, it shows a format data series. That's what I supposed to click on. And it shows primary axis and secondary axis. You see that here?
Yes.
If you put a secondary, now we got meaningful. The blue is still the close, and it behaves based on the left side, based on the stock prices that move from 28.80 to 30.4, and the volumes are from 1 million to 6 million. So now you have ability to see how they behave compared to each other, because you see the movement of each one of them up and down. Make sense?
I think I need 20 more classes.
Let me delete that and do it again. I want to chart those two, data, date, close, and volume. Highlight that. Go to inserts. Go to the, now we can do, let's do the same one and then we'll do another.
And
Click.
CJW colors.
Click I backed up by mistake. I'm coming back to what I did. And I'm going right click on a chart, format data series, and I get the same screen.
Before it was secondary something.
Right, secondary accent. Okay, here it is. When you do it only with basically it's a volume. Okay. If you click format plot area,
It's not giving it to you again.
Yeah. I really don't know. I never had this problem before. Um, um,
I think you have to start over.
yeah, I know. I don't know what's the story here. If I go this,
Okay.
No.
Format area.
no, it's not the area. It's a data series I have to format. And I don't understand why is it
You didn't point to the, no. Do you want to move on to the next?
yeah, that's
That will come back in our advanced class.
the last thing I want to talk about is formulas, and I'm going to talk about a simple formula. We did the simple formula, we did in a percent here, right?
Yes.
And a bit more complex if it was, if this, say, for example, was, let's say, the retail organization, and you have cost, retail, and markup. Okay, and let's say the cost is $10 and the retail is $19. And we can calculate a formula, but the markup is 9, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And you want to know what your markup percent. So you basically, it's the markup divided by the cost, right? What percent? Because the markup is calculated, the retail, I'm sorry, they do it on retail because it sounds better. So if you buy it for 10, sell it for 20, the markup is 50%. One would say 100% because it's twice the cost, but the retailer, I spend many of my years in retail, think that 50% sounds better to the consumer. So they will call it 50% markup. So it's so the formula will be equal markup divided by retail, right? Here's a 47%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you are lazy and you don't want to calculate the markup separately, here's the cost and retail. You have to do it. You want to calculate it in one shot. So it will be, so it basically will be retail minus cost divided by retail. So, but if you remember some of algebra, if I do it this way, retail minus cost divided by retail, we'll get an erroneous number. Because you first have to in algebra, the divide and multiply is executed before the plus and minus.
Mm-hmm.
That's algebra. So in order to do it correctly, you're doing the following, to force it to do it the right way. Say equal, parentheses. Now, I want you to calculate it first. And that is retail minus cost, close parentheses, divided by retail, 47%. So I'm sorry I cannot save you from algebra because it's all over the place. And in order to do the formulas, I love algebra and was my favorite subject, but there's no way around it because Excel does it exactly the way the rules dictate to do. So in order to force sequence, you put the thing you want to do separately in parentheses. And the last formula.
What is
Okay, any question about that?
Count and count A?
Say it again.
Ronnie Gerstein, what is the difference between count and count A? I want to count the number of things I have in a particular column. And the only thing that's working for me is count A. Count is not working. So what is the difference between the two of them?
I haven't got to those functions yet, to those functions, those formulas. One way you can get the count, and it's an easy one, I'll cover it now, is if you go and you see my cursor on difference, you see it here?
Yes.
And let's say I want to do it to here, okay? Just highlight. Look what happened. On the bottom here, it's maybe very difficult to see it because it's kind of small. You see the bottom here?
Yeah.
Very hard.
It's there. The average is 5,626. The count is 5. You have 1 to 5 elements. And the sum is 28,130. Happened 28,130. Okay?
Is that the question you're asking?
No, it's not directly, but that's one way to get the count. You highlight a bunch of numbers. Now, the sum here will be wrong. We discussed it earlier, but the count is 9. I have 9 numbers highlighted. It's wrong because of the subtotals. The last function I want to talk about is the if. Okay?
Is what?
If.
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 Conditional. And that's this part. I guess you didn't ask. I guess you didn't wonder what are the ones and blanks here. What it is I wanted to count and know how many people are playing, how many days this can Ellen wants to play, and it's 12. Because I couldn't add the Y's. It doesn't know how to add Y. I couldn't go and say count, and it will be 12, I hope. Yeah, 12 right here. But I wanted the numbers to record, not just to show. So I had to convert it to something that I can add, numbers. So I say 1. Also, it allows me to sum by day how many people want to play, by play day. And it's important because if we have 9 here on January 1st, few people want to play after partying Sunday, New Year's Eve. 9 means one of them cannot play because I have 4 sum and I can play only multiples of 4. So one of them will what we call alternate. So that's why I wanted to do that. So
whichever one had the biggest headache didn't play.
That's right. I didn't want to say that, Peggy. And so I put a formula. And the formula says if I5, that's the field here, equal Y, put Y, otherwise leave blank. That's a format. I'll show it to you easier. Every time you have a formula in a window, because you have a formula in a cell, the cell shows the result of the formula. The window on the top shows what the formula looks like. You see here it says 1 because that's a result, because it's a Y. here it told you what's the formula. You see an fx right next to it here?
Yep.
If you click on that, it shows you the breakdown and formula, and sometimes, especially if it's complex, it's easier to enter the formula. So and it tells you what the components of the formula. This formula has 3 components. What's a logical test? Is I5 equal Y, and I put Y in parent because if it's not a number, you put in parent, so Excel knows it's not a number, and you don't have associate number to that. So any character that is not a number, you put in parentheses. So it tells you very easily. That's a test. Is value if true. In other words, if it is Y, what do you want me to do? Put 1. If false, put space. I say paren blank paren right here. I don't know if I can make this box bigger. I cannot. So it tells you exactly, and it also tells you in this case the condition is true because Y5, this field here, is actually equal 5. I clicked on that, it changed the value, so I have to get out of it. So here's the formula. Okay. Now, what's nice about this the formula that you can copy it easily, and it's smart enough to understand that if you drag it, you don't refer to Y5. That's a question of nearly before. You don't anchor it because usually you don't want to anchor it. Here, I want this one, the first one, to look at the first cell here, the second one to look at the second cell here, and so on and so forth. So if let's say I blank that, so when you copy it, it understands the relationship to what cell you meant. It says you must mean the relative cell to the new box. Does that make sense?
Not really.
So.
Okay, let me show you. Let me enter it from beginning. I can say, let's say I know there's a formula here. Let's clear it up.
How did you know to write that formula? Can you just, I know that's more basic, but I don't understand.
I cleared it up in this line here. Basically what I want to do is I want here to be have a 1 every time the player want to play, and I want a blank if somebody else want to play. Okay?
Okay.
I want the Y's to show as a 1 here. It really doesn't make any difference, but I explained before why. No pun intended. And so I want to put here the condition. So I say equal if. Okay, it shows me underneath all the function that has the if in the if arrow, if NA, never mind those. So I double click on if. And it puts the if and it put parentheses, what do you want to do? Now, as I said before, it's easier for me to enter it remember this dialog box. So I click on the Fox thing here and the FX, and it shows me. So I'm now in this field here. So I want to say what the condition that I want this one to be related to, where is it? This field here, the corresponding, because I'm doing it to Jerry now, the first day of play, equal, paren, quote, Y, quote. If G11 equal Y. Okay? That's my condition. That's what I'm testing. Right? Now, if it's true, put a 1 right here. If it's not true, leave it space. It says quote, space, quote. Okay?
Okay.
I'll say okay.
Yeah.
Now it's blank because he's not playing anytime. That's a bad example. Let's put a Y here so you'll see a difference. Okay? Now, I can do it again like we do in a sum before, copy it, and or you can copy Control K, C, Control V. Now the formula is here, it's still blank because it's playing only one time this month. Or you can do it easily. You take the first one, the same handle on the bottom, and drag it across, and voila.
Okay.
Now, it realize here, if you say it's G11, it says here, if you can read. This one will say H11 is moving because if you move, you probably mean the next cell over. You see? It says H11. The next one will say I11 here. And eventually caught the only day he wants to play. I just made it up. On the 13th of the month, it shows one. And I have the sum here, which is basically, I showed before, sum. Remember that? It adds up the entire. It says sum Y11 to AL11, so it's sum from here to here, and it's 1 because it's only 1 here. On the other hand, if you have 5 here on this row, it adds up to 5. But that's simple adding because I just add the ones, and it's basically a count. To Nili's point, another way to do a count. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my question is, all these little symbols that you are using to make your formulas, is there something like, it made sense when you put the quotes around it, but I would not have known to do that until you showed that. Is there some sort of a cheat sheet that shows you what symbols that you should be using?
Well, the quote is anything that is not a number. Anything is not a number. In my case, it was a space or Y. Okay. But when I put, if we look at that here.
No, I understand it once you showed it. What I'm saying is, I'm sure there are other.
No, it's very simple, Peggy. Numbers. You see the one here doesn't have a quote. Right. Because I want purely the number 1. All the rest, this blank and the Y, do have quotes. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But
like
so
you use parentheses around the end of that, you put that whole thing in parentheses. Is that just because, I guess that there are symbols that you're supposed to use for different, I'm not sure I'm communicating this well, but there are different symbols that you're supposed to use. And is there like a list of things that you can look at to say that I should always put a quote here, I should always put an if there, I should always put parentheses there?
Well, there are books about Excel, so I'm sure I will include that.
That's a lifetime.
But to a question here, I'm not answering the general question, the particular question. All formulas, it's equal, the function itself, and all the components of the formula in parentheses. When you go to where I went here, you see, I didn't put any parentheses. He put the parentheses, Excel did, when I say okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the numbers here, for example here, or let's take the number here, the low, right? I can put another, I can do that, and it will tell you on the bottom, I showed it before, the average was 29.65. You see here?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I see it.
Now I can do, there is a function, because they function everything, is say equal average. You see, it comes average here. You double click on that, and it's a, okay. What do you want to put in? You highlight all those, click, here's a net 2965. If you look at the formula, it puts a parentheses by himself. I didn't type any parentheses.
Okay.
Wow, that's great.
Basically, it's the average F3 to F25. You can do the minimum, the maximum. Before we finish, let's show you, if you really want to go all the functions, there must be 100 of them. I'm not exaggerating. Here on the top, all those formulas. These are tab formulas. So if you look at financials, I do not know most of them, but you have interest rate here, for example, future value, those are financial numbers. Duration for mortgage.
Shlomo, why don't you show the recently, not recently,
recently used, it's recently used by me.
Gotcha, I'm sorry.
If I just use if now, interest rate I use, internal rate of return, month date, VLOOKUP, which I'll show next time. I find it very useful. That's how to do search and find things in a spreadsheet to match things. It's a vertical lookup. There's lookup that is horizontal, weekday, character. So that's what I use. But if you want to get heavy into math, you have everything you will learn in geometry and in algebra and in calculus.
And if you
easier here.
And if you highlight it, it shows to the right a description.
Yeah.
So see that?
Yeah.
And it also has tell me more.
Yeah, the tangent, cotangent, those names from a long time ago. But more importantly is they have text, how to analyze text, replace, right, justify, substitute every time you see A, B, change it to C, D, those kind of things.
Okay.
So you can look at that, but as you can see, each one of them is quite a few of them. Here's a logical, the if is one we look at. We didn't get into if and, so you have two conditions that have a relationship of and or, right? Familiar the difference between the two. Is the and, is the or, not, which in if not. Those are the function. We'll go into more function next time. We'll go into pivot table and we'll go back and do better the charts.
Shlomo, if I wanted to ask a question, like let's say I wanted to find a particular formula, but I don't know what it is or what where could I do the search for or like help?
Well, you can go Google.
Okay, but is there a place within Excel?
No, I don't know. I never use the help, and the help may have that, but I think I find Google easier than that because.
Okay, never mind. I thought it was.
And say, how do I do internal rate of return in Excel? And it will tell you. You know in English what you want to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
Now, the formulas, and I'm perceive myself an expert in Excel. I work with people that were super expert, and the formulas became really a programming language for them. And the things they would do was unbelievable. I used to be coders, they never coded, but they not knowingly coded using formulas.
By the way, Gloria said, if you do insert function at left top, I didn't understand exactly what Gloria meant there. Gloria, do you want to? Gloria, are you muted? Okay, don't worry about that.
Yeah, if you hit the, do you see it, Shlomo, next to the honor sum?
Yes.
You know, that it doesn't do it'll do a little bit of a lookup of the different functions available. On the top row under file.
Mm-hmm.
There.
I think we have to, we took enough time. I didn't cover everything we wanted. I think that was a trade-off of opening it to question, but I think it's very good that people could ask questions as I went along.
You may have to do more than one more class, Shlomo.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shlomo, I want to thank you very much for this Excel class. What are we going to be doing in the next class?
Kind of tied to what we just said, I have to catch up more of the charts. I didn't cover export and import, but that's pretty easy and simple. The same way you copy from a PowerPoint to...
From you, it's simple, not for us.
No, but the thing is, if you know how to copy from Word to PowerPoint, PowerPoint to Word, it's basically the same with slight different. And go into some more function and go into pivot table, which is my favorite, because I think it's extremely powerful. I'm looking at the list. But that's it. If we cannot do it and we need another class, if people are interested, we can do another class.
Would you be able to show us how to create a macro formula?
Macro? No.
Okay. I can ask.
So our next class, if you want to mark your calendar, is September 11th at 10 o'clock. And I will be putting it up in Thinkers, Tinkers, and I with the link. And I appreciate, Shlomo, you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Shlomo. You're great.
Thank you so much.
I thank you all, and we look forward to having us all at the next event.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very
bye-bye.
much. I appreciate your help.